Bop it to start. High score 71. Bop it. Twist it. Pull it. Bop it. Twist it. Bop it. Twist it. Twist it. Bop it. Pull it. Twist it. Pull it. Twist it. Why so slow? Score 12.
Hi, welcome to Katie Can't Read. I'm Katie. I can read. I have a cold sore right now. Let's not talk about it. And I'm back for my September wrap up. It's late. It's almost as late as my September unboxing. But I'm trying to get back on BookTube because my life is about to clear up just a little bit and get a little bit less chaotically busy. So I'm going to try and come back. I have missed this a lot. And there's not a day that's gone by that I haven't thought about this Katie Can't Read business. So we're just gonna do it right now. We're gonna talk about my September. I don't know if you guys are following me on Goodreads, and I am trying to start Storygraph now, so I will have that in the description below, and if I don't, then it was on a community post a while ago. But I'm trying to start a Storygraph. I'm on Goodreads. If you follow me on either of those and you watch what I've been reading, you already know that I am in a phase, okay? So in my quest to backtrack. So I, for the last couple months, have been struggling to know what I want to read. I've had like this pressure to read something that wasn't what I wanted to read. Like, I have read a lot of books lately that I've been like, I don't like this at all. And so I was like, you know what? We're just going to read books that you know you're going to like. You know, you're going to read for fun. You're not even going to read for a video purpose. You're reading for fun. So I sat and I read only Star Wars books in September, and it was everything. And I'm keeping it going so far. We'll see what the next book I read is. But I only read 6 books last month. I was busy. And they were all Star Wars books, and they were all incredible. And my goal is to read enough of them that I can make a Star Wars book video where I talk to you about all of the best Star Wars books that I can recommend for you. So yeah, let's talk about these. So the very first book I read this month was A New Dawn by John Jackson Miller. I gave this 4.5 stars, and I loved it. So this book I actually tried to read a really long time ago, but never made it all the way through. I'm a huge Star Wars Rebels fan. It's like my favorite thing ever. So the fact that we have a book that is a Kanan and Hera origin story is everything to me. They captured so much yearning and tension, and like also just like the groundwork of their entire relationship in this book. But it wasn't like a romance thing. It was like their meet cute before their eventual really slow burn romance that I think is a lot less slow burn than they like to make us think. I loved it. I gave it 4.5 instead of 5 though, because one, Chopper erasure. Chopper was not in this book, and Chopper is my favorite Star Wars droid, period. So the fact that he wasn't there made me a little bit hurt, and I was waiting the whole time for him to get there. Number 2, I thought that the side characters were very forgettable. I do feel like that in a lot of Star Wars books. If they create a character for the book that's like to be a side character, they never stick out to me very well. But this one I especially felt, I was like, I was like, who are these people? I loved this book. I feel like this is a really good book if you, one, like Star Wars Rebels and you just want to know more. It's a really fun origin story of how they got together. I wish we could have it like another one where we find out how they met Zeb, how they met Sabine. I would live for that. But I loved it. I thought it was a really fun, like, little moment. I don't have a lot of like thoughts on a lot of the books I read this month, just a lot of vibes because I was reading for fun. But I did really love this book, and I think it was a really fun one. And I didn't realize until I was reading it that it was actually the first book published in the new Star Wars canon, which I thought was really fitting for me going back into my Star Wars book thing. And I loved that for me. I'm also just a huge Kanan stan. Like, I love him. And Hera, my milf, I love them. So it was just good to see them. It was good to see them. I love them very much. Also, the internal, whatever Kanan was going through the whole book was so interesting to me. Like, Hera, she was the same. But the way that Kanan ended up in this book versus who he is in the show, wow. Incredible. 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 The next book I read was Queen's Peril by E.K. Johnston. This is the sequel slash prequel slash companion novel to Queen's Shadow by E.K. Johnston, which is the second published book in her trilogy of books she's writing about Padme. So there was one, Queen's Shadow, which I read right when it came out, about Padme after after Phantom Menace, before Attack of the Clones. And this one is before Phantom Menace. This is her right when she gets elected as queen, and it goes all the way through the events of the Phantom Menace, essentially. I really liked it. I thought it was a really good read. Really, really fun, light-hearted Star Wars book that I feel like is a good one for if you've never done a Star Wars book before, because it's so digestible. I was reading it and I could picture everything because I already essentially knew a lot of this story. A lot of who these people were. I knew just about everything I needed to know about this one, and it worked really well. The fact that there's a third one coming out, and it was supposed to come out next month, and then it got pushed back until April of next year, and it literally broke my heart. And it's set after Attack of the Clones in Padme's life, like during the Clone Wars, and I'm gonna cry. It's gonna be so good. But I genuinely love this little series because Padme was one of my favorite characters as a kid. She's still one of my favorite characters as an adult. And I feel like it's very rare that she gets to have the spotlight. And so to see her and who she truly is, and like her hanging out with all of her friends, because it's a lot about the handmaidens too, where the second most important part of this book is the handmaidens. And this one's really fun because you get to see her very young, like the first days of her election as queen, and how a lot of the things that we sort of think are, just go right hand in hand with being queen of Naboo were what Padme started, or like her influence. And it's just a really fun, cool book. And I love it so much. And what I love about this series too is how it connects to everything else. And there's a lot of like unexpected point of views in this. Some of the funniest, I laughed out loud reading this. I loved it. It was a 4.5 stars because I wanted a little more. I was just like, it was too short. Make it longer. The third book I read this month was Ahsoka by E.K. Johnston. I went through a little bit of an E.K. Johnston dive. I also tried to read this 2 years ago and I could never finish it. And then I finally sat down and read all of it, and oh my god, it blew me away. So good. So good. So this book follows Ahsoka after the events of Order 66 by maybe a year or two. And then there's also these flashbacks. And the flashbacks were the part that really pushed this over to a full 5 stars for me, because I felt like the actual current plot of the book was just fine. It felt like every other Star Wars book. But those flashbacks hit me so hard. They were incredible. And I was just tears running down my face at points, gasping, crying, screaming, crying, throwing up. It was really, really good. A little bit heartbreaking if you are a Clone Wars fan, if you care about these characters, if you love Ahsoka. And what I also loved about it is I am a huge Bail Organa stan, and Bail Organa has a really fun part in this book. And I love anytime an author gets to take Bail Organa, who has been one of my favorite characters for a really long time, and, put him in a more of a spotlight, as opposed to him kind of standing in the back as, Padme's friend who adopts Leia later on. But seeing him be in his prime is really cool. I love Bail Organa. But I just really loved this book. I loved Ahsoka's growth. Also, it's very, if you know what I mean. It was just, the whole arc of it was really cool, and the way that it ties her time after Order 66 up to kind of where she shows back up later on. So you kind of get to see this little bow in these hidden years that I love to explore that are right after Order 66. Star Wars fact about me, my favorite Star Wars era is the post-Order 66 Empire is just rising little moment in time. Like those first 15 years before the rebellion really picks up, I think they're really, really interesting and gritty and dark, and that's kind of what this book feels like, but it also has a YA tone, so it's very digestible, but it's so good. Ugh, it's tear-jerking. I love it. What also made reading this book fun, one more thing, was I was reading it with the knowledge that I was going to make Christina read it, and so the whole time I was writing little notes in it, and that is just like always really, really fun to write notes like pain, you know, in the margins for her. The next book I read was one of the best Star Wars books I think I have ever read. Dark Disciple by Christie Golden. So this is one that I never was really interested in. Quinlan Vos was never a character I really cared about. There he is. Asajj Ventress I always thought was really cool, but she's never someone I was like, I'll read a whole book about her. I should have been smarter. So this book is based off of a like unproduced Clone Wars arc that I'm so thankful didn't get produced, because they would have totally watered down the story, and it's insanely cool how cool it turned out in an adult book. This book was so unexpected, and it kind of did exactly what I want all Star Wars books to do, which is to set a different genre in a Star Wars book. And this was like an action romance. You heard me. It was a romance book. Pretty much entirely. And like, I'm not talking like, oh, it was a romance book, like long-term, slow burn. Like, no. It was pretty fast. And then there was a lot of like action and figuring things out. I also thought that this had really fun characterization of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is my favorite character in all of Star Wars, and so anytime that he shows up in a cameo role, it was really fun, but seeing him in this characterization was really cool. This is one of those like really, I can't even say much more because I just want everyone to read this one. This one was insane. It broke my heart. It was very shocking how much I liked it, because I didn't really care for either of these two characters before I read this book. But then I was reading this book, I was like, I kind of love them. I was rooting for them. It also has, quite literally, the rawest line I've ever read in any book ever, but specifically a Star Wars book. I hope this is it. Okay. So this is a quote from like not even 100 pages into this book. And it's, I wonder, what's worse, to have unhappy stories or have no story at all? Sorry. That hurts. That hurts. Yeah, this was an incredible book. It had a lot of the little romance action tropes I love so much. Like when you read a fantasy romance, they have to go to a fancy event and they see each other in fancy clothes for the first time. What a trope. It was in this. So I just love this book. I think if you love romance books and you also like Star Wars, this is a good book for you. Or if you've always wanted to read Star Wars and you know you like fantasy romance / sci-fi romance, this is a good one to start. The next book I read was Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. Once again, another book I started once and never finished. So I knew a lot of people talked about this being like their favorite new Star Wars book. This is everything. It follows Qui-gon and Obi-Wan, like, I think 9-ish years before the Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan is 17. So, and it's them, they're having a really rocky relationship. They are struggling to figure things out even 4 or 5 years after Obi-Wan has been accepted as a Padawan, and they're struggling, and they get sent on this mission, and it was just a really delightful book. It felt like a standard Star Wars book, and for the first time, I actually really loved the side characters in this one that weren't in other movies. So you get to see sort of like Qui-Gon's, so Count Dooku, who was Qui-Gon's master, his Padawan before Qui-Gon is one of the main characters in this, and then there's a really cool princess in this There's a lot of really cool political intrigue in this. There's some really beautiful characterization of both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. And you see how you can understand why they frustrate each other. But you can also see how if they figured things out, they would make each other so much stronger. It gives us the answer to age-old questions, like why does Obi-Wan hate flying? And there's also a really interesting arc, or really interesting conversation about like slavery in the universe in it, which is a common theme in a Star Wars universe, is that's slavery is bad, and yet it still persists because humans are evil. And so there's a very intriguing subplot with that, and it's just a really fun book if you love these characters. It is fun, it's a bit chunky, but it is beautiful, and it also has some of the most powerful Star Wars moments and quotes I've ever read. Claudia Gray does not miss. She doesn't miss. I have read 3 of her books now, and she doesn't miss. This is one of my favorites. It makes me very, very excited for next year. There's another Padawan book about Padawan Obi-Wan coming out, and I'm very excited for that one because I love the way their dynamic is, and I think they're very fun, and I think everyone should read this. So fair enough? Fair enough. The final book I read of the month was Leia, Princess of Alderaan, which was like a half buddy read with Skylar. From Skylar Reads. Skylar essentially just texted me a screenshot of the cover and said, "Have you read this?" I said no, and then I ordered it and read it, and they didn't really talk much about it, but I gave it a 4 stars because as much as I did like it, it was not my favorite. It felt much younger than all of the other books I had been reading. Even the other YA Star Wars books. So Queen's Peril, Ahsoka, and this are all YA Star Wars books, but this one was the only one that truly felt YA to me. Queen's Peril too, but this one felt really young. However, I love me some Bail Organa. So the fact that Bail Organa was not only in it, which is a given considering that he adopted Leia, not only is he in it, he's like the main man in this book, besides like the Leia plotline. Like she's always like, ugh, my dad is like ignoring me and stuff. And I'm like, haha, I'm in love with your dad. Anyway, this is a very fun one. It follows Leia as she is, trying to prove herself to her parents, and she ends up uncovering some of her parents' secrets. There's a really fun dinner scene that I literally laughed out loud reading. I was like, this is the funniest thing anyone's ever done in Star Wars. And I was just giggling. I was giggling senselessly as I was reading this scene, and I literally put the book down, looked at my roommates, and was like, you guys, I can't believe that this just happened. It was a really fun read. Leia is one of my all-time favorite characters as well, so just getting to see her in a different stage of her life than the one that we were presented with, and seeing her at a more young and impressionable stage. And then there's also a lot of political intrigue and allure with this rising empire time. The empire is at its height right now, and it's a really, really good book. And there's a little romance subplot with her and another little kid, and it's really cute. And we get to see the origin of her and Vice Admiral Holdall's friendship, which I thought was so cute, because it's fun how authors interpret these characters that we only see in one stage in their life. So like Holdo, who was in The Last Jedi, Flora Dern's character, I'll put a picture in. Her as a kid is so different than how she is as an adult, but also so the same, which I love it so much. It's very creative when authors are able to do that. Those are the 6 Star Wars books I read in September. I've already read more Star Wars books this month, so expect next month I will be talking again about Star Wars books. I love reading Star Wars books. If you have any Star Wars book recommendations, let me know. I really want to get into the High Republic next. I really want to do it. I also need to tackle our Thrawn stack. We have 8 Thrawn books in our house. I was thinking maybe I'll do a vlog series of me reading all Thrawn books. I'm very excited. So yeah, that is my month. I didn't read a lot, but I read a lot of books that made me happy, and that is really all that matters, read what you love and love what you read. Don't try to force yourself into a box that you don't want to fit in, that your brain doesn't like. So just read what you want. Read whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If this becomes a Star Wars book channel, so be it. So be it. It's what I deserve. Well, anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. Have you read these? Do you like Star Wars books? Is this gonna lose all my subscribers? I don't care. I'm happy. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next chapter.
We will each be challenged. Our trust, our faith, our friendships. But we must persevere. And in time, a new hope will emerge. May the Force be with you, always.